The manicured lawns of Crestview Estates HOA shimmered under a deceptively peaceful morning sun. For new resident Marcus Thorne, 45, his daily run was a ritual of focus and freedom, a moving meditation between his old life and his new command. With a powerful athletic build honed by 2 decades in the military police, Marcus moved with an easy grace, his close-cropped hair and warm brown eyes taking in the sprawling houses. But Marcus wasn't just any jogger. He was a newly appointed pre-inauguration county sheriff, undercover for one last week to gauge the community's pulse before his public swearing-in. After a career tackling systemic bias in policing, he wanted to see the reality on the ground, to feel the streets he'd sworn to protect and serve. His mind drifted to his son, 16-year-old Jamal, who'd been stopped just last month in this very neighborhood, accused of looking suspicious while visiting a friend. "They just saw my skin and my hoodie, Dad," Jamal had said, the hurt etched on his face. That moment solidified Marcus's resolve. He was done fighting from the outside. He was taking the system over. A sleek SUV, the color of pearl, suddenly swerved to the curb, blocking the sidewalk. The window slid down with an electric hum to reveal Carol Pendleton, 52, the HOA's compliance chair. Her blonde bob was perfectly shellacked, her lips pursed in a permanent state of disapproval, her sharp eyes hidden behind designer sunglasses. "You stop right there," she barked, her voice slicing through the morning quiet. Marcus slowed to a halt, his breathing steady and his demeanor calm. "Ma'am, is there a problem?" "The problem is I don't recognize you," Carol snapped, stepping out her car, her khakis and polo shirt crisp and intimidating. "We've had reports of break-ins. I need to know what you're doing here." "I'm jogging," Marcus replied evenly, though a familiar, cold knot tightened in his stomach. It was the same tone, the same accusatory stance he'd spent his career dismantling. "I live here, on Sycamore Lane." Carol let out a short, dismissive laugh. "Sycamore Lane? I know everyone on Sycamore. Don't lie to me. People like you don't belong here. Scouting houses, disrupting our peace." The coded language was clear, a dog whistle he'd heard 1,000 times before. "I'm making a citizen's call. Stay right there." Marcus's pulse remained slow, controlled. He'd been in far more dangerous situations, but this casual, entitled prejudice was its own kind of threat. "Carol Pendleton, right? HOA compliance. I read the community newsletter. With all due respect, you have no cause to detain me." Her eyes widened behind her glasses, then narrowed. "How do you know my name?" "See? Suspicious. I'm calling it in." She pulled out her phone, her voice dripping with false concern as she spoke to the 911 dispatcher. "Yes. Hello. I'd like to report a trespasser. A black male, mid-40s, aggressive demeanor, refusing to identify himself. On Crestview Drive. He's making me feel unsafe." Marcus simply watched, a small, knowing smile playing on his lips. He saw a young Latino man across the street, walking his dog, pull out his phone and start recording. The wheels of justice, both formal and informal, were beginning to turn. Within minutes, a patrol cruiser arrived. Officer Miller, a young, earnest deputy, stepped out. "All right, what's the situation here?" Carol pounced. "Officer, thank God. This man is trespassing," and he became very confrontational when I questioned him. "I fear for our community's safety." Officer Miller turned to Marcus, his professional mask in place. "Sir, can I see some ID?" Marcus remained still. "Officer Miller, is it? You should know that falsely reporting a crime is a misdemeanor in this county. This woman has no cause to stop me, and her description of events is a fabrication." He then slowly reached into the small pocket on his running shorts and produced his driver's license. Officer Miller took it, his eyes scanning the information. Then they went wide. He looked from the license to Marcus's face, the color draining from his own. "Oh, my God! Sir, I didn't... I mean..." Carol scoffed. "What is it? Is it a fake?" "I knew it." Officer Miller stood ramrod straight, handing the license back as if it were a holy relic. "Ma'am, this is Marcus Thorne. I don't care what his name is. He needs to be removed." "No, ma'am," Officer Miller said, his voice firming up. You don't understand. This is Sheriff-elect Marcus Thorne. He's our new boss. He takes office next week. The silence that fell was louder than any siren. Carol's mouth opened and closed, a perfect imitation of a gasping fish. Her perfectly composed world cracked right there on the sidewalk. The sunglasses couldn't hide the sheer, unadulterated shock. Marcus finally moved, taking his license back. Officer Miller, I trust you'll note in your report that I was compliant. Identified myself when asked by a law enforcement officer, and was the subject of false and racially motivated complaint. His warm brown eyes settled on Carol, now cold as steel. As for you, Miss Pendleton, your concern for the community has been noted. We'll be in touch. He gave a curt nod to the stunned officer, then turned and began to jog away, the picture of calm efficiency. But as he rounded the corner, his phone buzzed. It was a text from his soon-to-be chief of staff. Asterisk Marcus. The background check on the Pendleton file you requested is back. You were right to be suspicious. She's not just a busybody. We found something bigger. The HOA board is involved. Call me SAP. Asterisk. The jog had revealed a single bigot, but the text hinted at a conspiracy. Marcus picked up his pace, his mind already racing. Carol Pendleton was just the tip of the spear. The crisp morning air in Crestview Estates now crackled with unresolved tension. Sheriff-elect Marcus Thorne, 45, stood in his home office, his athletic frame coiled with purpose, his warm brown eyes now sharp with forensic intensity. The encounter with Carol Pendleton wasn't an isolated incident. It was a symptom. The text from his chief of staff, Liam, glowed on his phone. Asterisk, the HOA board is involved. Call me SAP. Asterisk beside him. Liam's face was grim on the video call, his no-nonsense demeanor a stark contrast to the sunny suburb outside. It's not just bias, Marcus. It's a racket, Liam said, his voice low and steady. Carol Pendleton's husband, David, is the HOA treasurer. They've been levying fake compliance fines on minority homeowners for years, then pressuring them to sell to a shell corporation at below market rates when they can't pay. Marcus's jaw tightened, the memory of his son Jamal's humiliating stop flashing behind his eyes. This was bigger than one woman's prejudice. It was a systemic scheme preying on families. The Shell Corp? Blackwater Holdings. It's a front. We trace the LLC back to a disbarred lawyer. But the money, it's clean on paper. They're smart. Liam paused, but they got sloppy. They tried to find the Ramirez family for a non-compliant garden gnome the day after they refused a lowball offer. Marcus's mind, trained for tactical analysis, saw the pattern instantly. The false police report was a tactic, a way to harass and intimidate, to make life in Crestview so unbearable you'd sell cheap, just escape. We need proof, a direct link. I'm on it, Liam nodded. But Marcus, be careful. These people have layers. Later that day, Marcus met Liam at a discreet park bench overlooking the community. Liam handed over a tablet. I dug into the HOA's financials. There's a pattern. Fines are disproportionately targeted at Black and Latino households. The money is then funneled through landscaping and security contracts of Blackwater. It's a for-sale pipeline, Marcus murmured, his blood running cold. He thought of the Ramirez family, the Jeffersons, all the families who had quietly moved away. He'd assumed it was the market. Now he knew it was theft. Their source emerged from the shadow of a large oak tree. It was Ben, the young Latino man who had recorded Carol's false report. Up close, he was nervous but resolute. My abuela almost lost her house to them, he whispered, handing Marcus a thumb drive. I work for the HOA's IT contractor. Their passwords are taped under their keyboards. The board is meeting tonight at the clubhouse to finalize the Ramirez account. You should hear what they say. The pieces were falling into place. This was the break they needed. Under the cover of twilight, Marcus and Liam infiltrated the HOA clubhouse. With Ben's codes, they slipped into a storage closet adjacent to the main meeting room. Through the vent, they could see Carol Pendleton, her face pinched with triumph, her husband David, a balding man with a perpetually sweaty brow, and 2 other board members. The Ramirez situation is nearly resolved, David said, adjusting his glasses. The cumulative fines have exceeded their equity. Blackwater's offer goes out tomorrow. They'll have no choice. Good, Carol sniffed, her voice dripping with venom. We can't have the neighborhood declining. We maintain standards. If they can't afford the fines, they can't afford to live here. Liam's hidden recorder captured every damning word. It was confession, laid bare with arrogant entitlement. But as they prepared to leave, a floorboard creaked outside the closet. The door swung open to reveal David Pendleton, his eyes wide with shock, then narrowing into slits of fury. You, he hissed, looking directly at Marcus. I should have known. Trespassing again? This time, sheriff or not, you're finished. Marcus didn't flinch, his authoritative presence filling the small space. It's over, David. We have it all. The fines, the shell company, the 4 sales. A cruel smile spread across David's face. You have nothing. You obtained that illegally. It's inadmissible. He pulled out his phone. But this is a clear-cut breaking and entering. I'm calling the police on the police. As David dialed, Marcus's phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number, forwarded by Ben. Asterisk, the money from Blackwater doesn't stop with the Pendletons. It goes up, way up. The county commissioner is involved. They know you're here. Get out, now. Asterisk, David finished his call, his smile triumphant. The real police are on their way. Let's see how your election looks after felony arrests. Marcus stood his ground, but his mind raced. Carol was just a foot soldier. David was a lieutenant. They had exposed the scheme, but they had just stumbled into the heart of a much larger, more powerful conspiracy. The sterile, windowless interrogation room of the Precinct 7 felt like a cruel irony. Sheriff-elect Marcus Thorne, 45, sat opposite Internal Affairs Captain John Riggs, his athletic frame held in a posture of disciplined calm, his warm brown eyes betraying no hint of the storm raging within. The recording from the HOA clubhouse, the proof of the Pendleton scheme, was sealed in an evidence bag on the table between them, its contents legally neutered by the manner in which it was obtained. Breaking and entering Marcus, Riggs said, his voice a low, disappointed rumble. He was a 30-year veteran, his face a roadmap of past battles. Of all people, you know the rules of evidence. This, he tapped the bag, is worthless, and it puts you in a very deep hole. Across the table, David Pendleton smirked, his sweaty brow gleaming under the fluorescent lights. His lawyer, a sleek pit bull in a $1,000 suit, nodded in agreement. My client is prepared to press full charges. This is a clear abuse of power by a public official. Marcus remained silent, his mind racing to the tactical chessboard. They had walked into a trap. The anonymous text about the county commissioner hadn't been a warning. It had been bait, designed to lure them into an illegal act that would discredit everything. Liam, waiting outside, was already working the phones, but the media cycle was turning into a feeding frenzy. Sheriff-elect and burglary scandal. The headlines blared online, erasing the context of the Pendletons' crimes. Just as Riggs was about to formally charge him, the door to the interrogation room swung open. A young, sharp-eyed deputy leaned in. Captain, there's a delivery for you, and a call on line 1. It's the district attorney's office. A moment later, the deputy placed a simple cardboard box on the table. Riggs, his brow furrowed, opened it. Inside were notarized financial documents, bank transfers, and a signed affidavit from Ben, the IT worker, detailing how he had witnessed David Pendleton accessing the HOA's server to manually alter fine records for targeted families. What is this? David's lawyer snapped, his confidence faltering. Riggs held up a hand, listening to the phone receiver he'd picked up. His eyes never left David's face. I see. Yes, understood. He hung up. That was the DA. It seems your shell corporation, Blackwater Holdings, just had all its records subpoenaed by a federal financial crimes task force. They're very interested in the pattern of transactions from a Crestview HOA account to an offshore bank associated with County Commissioner Evans. David's smirk vanished, replaced by a sheen of pure panic. That's impossible. You can't prove. We didn't have to, Marcus said, speaking for the first time, his voice quiet but absolute. The FBI did. Legally. Your little kingdom was already under investigation. You just didn't know it. The trap had been sprung, but not on Marcus. The Pendletons, in their arrogance, had drawn the gaze of a much larger predator. Captain Riggs slid the evidence bag with the illegal recording back toward Marcus. The breaking and entering charge is being re-evaluated. Given the circumstances and the emergence of this new, lawfully obtained evidence, you're free to go, Sheriff-elect Thorne. My apologies for the inconvenience. Marcus stood, his gaze locking with David Pendleton's, who now looked small and broken. The inconvenience was having you in our community, David. Outside the precinct, Liam was waiting, a grin on his face. The federal warrant came through an hour after you went in. We just had to keep them talking. The commissioner? Marcus asked, breathing in the free night air. Evans is lawyering up. It's over for him, too. The media is flipping the script as we speak. It seemed like a total victory. The bigots were caught. The corrupt politician was falling, and Marcus's name was being cleared in spectacular fashion. But as he got into his car, his phone buzzed. It was an encrypted message from a number he didn't recognize. Asterisk, the commissioner was a useful idiot. You've trimmed the weeds, but the roots are deeper. The people we really work for don't like loose ends. Watch your back, Sheriff. The game is just beginning. Asterisk. A cold dread, sharper than any he'd felt facing Carol Pendleton or her husband, trickled down his spine. He had won the battle against the local corruption, but he had just alerted a far more powerful, shadowy enemy he never knew existed. The victory party at Marcus's home was short-lived. The headline on his tablet glowed in the dark of his home office. Sheriff-elect vindicated. Federal probe exposes corruption. But the encrypted message burned hotter in his mind. The people we really work for don't like loose ends. He was no longer just a sheriff. He was a target. It reads like a corporate espionage thriller, Liam said, his face pale on the video call. He'd run the message through every database. Nothing. It's a ghost. But the phrasing, useful idiot. Loose ends. This isn't local thuggery, Marcus. This is professional. Marcus's military-honed instincts were screaming. This was a coordinated counterattack. The Pendletons and Evans were the front. A revenue stream for something bigger. We didn't just expose corruption. We interrupted a cash flow. His personal cell, a secure line known only to a handful of people, buzzed. It was his son, Jamal. Dad? Some guys in a van. They were parked outside the school. They asked my friends what kind of car you drive. They knew my name. The cold dread in Marcus's spine turned to ice. They weren't just coming for him. They were scoping his family. An hour later, Liam called back, his voice tight with a new kind of fear. Marcus, I dug deeper into Blackwater's finances. The money from the HOA shakedowns, it didn't just go offshore. It was laundered through a series of shell companies and then funneled into a private security contractor, Aegis Solutions. The name hit Marcus like a physical blow. Aegis Solutions held multi-million-dollar contracts with the county for prison transport and courthouse security. They were embedded in the very system he was about to command. They're not just in the system, Liam breathed. They are the system in some departments. If they have courthouse access, prison access, the implications were staggering. A private, for-profit company with a shadowy agenda, funded by preying on minority homeowners, had its people inside law enforcement infrastructure. They could manipulate evidence, access files, and plant contraband. They could orchestrate the downfall of anyone who threatened them, including a new sheriff. We have to go public with this, Liam urged. And say what? Marcus countered, his voice low and steady despite the chaos in his mind. That a company with a spotless record, half of whose employees are former deputies, is a criminal conspiracy based on a hunch and an encrypted text? They had me committed before I was sworn in. He knew what he had to do. It was a risk that could end his career before it began, but it was the only move he had. He placed a call to the one person he knew he could still trust, a grizzled, retired FBI agent named Wallace who had taught him everything about deep investigations. Wallace, I need a favor. A deep, quiet background on Aegis Solutions. And I need a secure, off-the-books meeting with the head of the federal task force that took down Evans. Tonight, Wallace grunted in agreement. You're poking a hornet's nest, kid. They already stung my son, Marcus replied, his voice grim. It's past poking. The meeting was set for a dusty old freight warehouse on the industrial edge of the county. Marcus drove a circuitous route, his eyes constantly scanning his mirrors. He saw nothing, which somehow felt more ominous. He pulled into the warehouse, the only light coming from a single office on the second floor. He climbed the metal stairs, each step echoing in the cavernous space. He pushed the office door open. The room was empty, save for a single chair. On it sat a manila envelope. His name was typed on the front. Heart pounding, Marcus opened it. Inside were photographs. A grainy, long-lens shot of Liam leaving his apartment this morning. A picture of Jamal laughing with his friends at school. And a final, chillingly clear photo of Marcus himself, taken from this very warehouse floor minutes ago as he climbed the stairs. They hadn't followed him. They were already here. His phone buzzed. A new encrypted message. Asterisk, we appreciate you coming to us. Saves us the trouble of a more public introduction. Let's talk, Sheriff. Turn around. Asterisk. Marcus slowly turned. Standing in the doorway of the office, silhouetted against the dim light of the warehouse, was the last person he ever expected to see. It was Captain John Riggs, the Internal Affairs officer who just hours ago apologized for the inconvenience. Riggs offered a thin, cold smile that didn't reach his eyes. You're a hard man to get a moment with, Marcus. But like the message said, let's talk. Aegis Solutions has a proposition for you. The dusty warehouse air grew thick and heavy, pressing in on Marcus. Captain John Riggs stood in the doorway, his IA cop demeanor shed like a skin, replaced by the cold, calculating aura of a corporate enforcer. A proposition, Marcus repeated, his voice flat, his body coiled like a spring. Every instinct screamed to rush the man, but Riggs's hand rested too casually on his service weapon. You bankrupt families, target my son, and now you want to talk business? We want to talk reality, Riggs countered, stepping fully into the room. Aegis isn't some cartoon villainy. We're a necessary evolution. Public institutions are slow, bloated, and weak. We provide efficiency. The HOA venture was a small-scale liquidity test. You disrupted that, but your effectiveness is precisely why we're talking. He laid out the offer with chilling clarity. Marcus would become sheriff in name, a public face for justice. But behind the scenes, he would steer county contracts, evidence, and intelligence to Aegis. In return, he'd be wealthier than he could imagine, and his family would be protected. The alternative, Riggs said, his smile vanishing, is a tragic accident in this warehouse. A fallen hero, just shy of his dream. The press will mourn you, will make sure of it. Marcus let the silence hang, his mind racing through the chessboard. He had one move. He'd known Riggs was dirty the moment he'd walked into the precinct interrogation. The man was too eager to dismiss the illegal recording. So, before this meeting, Marcus had made 2 calls. One to Liam with a single code word, blackout. The other to his son, Jamal. He looked Riggs dead in the eye. You made one fatal mistake. Riggs scoffed. And what's that? You threatened my boy. On cue, the entire warehouse was flooded with blinding white light. From the rafters, high-powered LED spots, part of an old film studio's leftover equipment, switched on, pinning Riggs in a cone of light. He flinched, shielding his eyes, his professional cool shattering into disoriented confusion. You're surrounded, Riggs. Marcus's voice booed, amplified by the warehouse's PA system, which Liam had now activated from a remote location. The acoustics made it sound like the voice of God himself. In that split second of distraction, Marcus moved. He wasn't a politician in that moment. He was an MP disarming a hostile. He closed the distance, his move a blur of train motion. A sharp, precise strike to the wrist knocked Riggs's gun clattering to the concrete floor. A follow-up blow to the solar plexus drove the air from the corrupt captain's lungs, sending him stumbling back. But the true masterstroke was unfolding online. As Riggs gasped on the floor, Marcus stood over him, pulling out his own phone. You wanted a public introduction? You've got one. He opened a live streaming app. The feed went live to every major news outlet and social platform. The link pre-distributed by Liam. "People of this county," Marcus began, his voice steady and commanding, "the sheriff he was born to be. This is Captain John Riggs of your Internal Affairs Unit. He works for Aegis Solutions, a company that has been secretly funded by stealing homes from hard-working families right here in Crestview. They tried to recruit me into their corruption. They threatened my child." He panned the camera to show the warehouse, the lights, and the disgraced captain on the ground. "This ends now. The federal warrants are already being executed, but this is bigger than one company. This is a warning. We will root out the rot, no matter what uniform it wears." The fallout was immediate and explosive. Viewers watched in real time as federal agents, tipped off by Marcus's evidence, swarmed Aegis headquarters and the homes of its conspirators. Riggs, broken and exposed, was led away in handcuffs, his career and life in ashes. Weeks later, Sheriff Marcus Thorne stood at a podium on the courthouse steps, his swearing-in not a quiet ceremony, but a public celebration. His first official act was to sign an executive order banning all private security contractors from core law enforcement functions in the county. Beside him stood his son Jamal, his chest puffed out with pride. "You showed them, Dad," he whispered. "No, son," Marcus replied, pulling him close. We showed them. Your courage was the key." That night, as a fireworks display, organized by the once-targeted Ramirez and Jefferson families, exploded over the city in a triumphant, thunderous finale, Marcus received one final message. It was from an encrypted number, but the tone was different. "You passed the real test. The fight continues. We'll be in touch. Marcus looked out at the blooming lights in the sky, a small, hard smile on his face. The first battle was won. The war for the soul of his community was just beginning, and he was ready. Prejudice built the first wall, but courage brought the whole corrupt structure down. The sheriff is in. Justice is served. Subscribe for more stories of justice in the fight. For more Just World, ***.